Welcome to EduCasts, home of EduCasters. Education is often pitched as the transmission of knowledge, a simple transaction where facts move from the teacher's notes to the student's brain. But any educator worth their salt knows that the reality is far messier and much more profound. We aren't just filling buckets, we are lighting fires, as the old saying goes. But even more than that, we are architects helping to build the very structure of a student's personality. This is where Erikson's psychosocial development theory comes into play. It's not just dry textbook psychobabble. It is a living, breathing blueprint for understanding the humans sitting in our classrooms. Erikson, a psychoanalyst who broke the mold by extending development from the womb to the tomb, proposed that we all go through 8 distinct stages of life. At each stage, we face a specific crisis, not a catastrophe, but a turning point. How we navigate these waters determines whether we emerge with a psychological strength or virtue, or if we get bogged down by a maladaptation. For educators, understanding these stages isn't just about playing amateur psychologist. It's about recognizing that a student struggling with algebra might actually be struggling with a sense of inferiority, or that a disruptive preschooler might be fighting a battle for autonomy. By bridging the gap between psychological theory and educational practice, we can create environments that don't just teach students what to think, but support who they are becoming. Understanding the 8 ages of man, before we dive into the nitty-gritty of classroom management, we have to lay the groundwork of the theory itself. Erikson built his theory on the epigenetic principle. It's a fancy term, but the concept is straightforward. Just as a fetus develops organs in a specific sequence, our personality develops in a predetermined order. You can't put the roof on a house before you've poured the foundation. In the same way, a teenager can't fully figure out who they are, identity, if they haven't first learned to trust the world, trust, or believe in their own competence, industry. What makes Erikson's work hit the nail on the head for educators is his view of the crisis. In American culture, we often treat crisis as a dirty word, something to avoid at all costs. But for Erikson, a crisis is just a crossroad. It's a moment of high potential and high vulnerability. It's when the rubber meets the road. If a child navigates the crisis successfully, they gain a virtue that stays with them for life. If they don't, they carry a bit of baggage into the next stage. The beauty of this theory is its optimism. Erikson believed that even if you stumbled at one stage, you could, with the right support, often from a dedicated teacher, go back and patch things up. You aren't doomed by your past. The early years, the classroom as a safe haven, preschool and kindergarten. Let's start at the beginning. When children first walk through the doors of a preschool or kindergarten, they are carrying the outcomes of their very first battles. Trust versus mistrust. 0 to 1.5 years. While this stage mostly happens at home, its echoes are loud and clear in the classroom. This is the bedrock. A child needs to know that the world is a safe place and that people are dependable. If a child comes from a home where needs were met inconsistently, they might walk into your classroom with a chip on their shoulder or a deep-seated anxiety. For early childhood educators, the goal is to be a rock. You have to be consistent. If you say snack time is at 10 a.m., it needs to be at 10 a.m. If you say you'll help them tie their shoe, you have to follow through. You are essentially acting as a secondary attachment figure. When a teacher provides a warm, predictable environment, they are helping a child who might have started on the wrong foot to redo this stage and learn that adults can indeed be trusted. This paves the way for all future learning, because let's face it, you can't learn from someone you don't trust. Autonomy versus shame and doubt. 1.5 to 3 years. This is the me-do-it phase. It's messy, it's loud, and it tests the patience of a saint. Children are realizing they have a will of their own. They want to choose their snack, pick their toy, and crucially, control their own bodies. Hello, potty training. In the classroom, the line between fostering autonomy and maintaining chaos is thin. If a teacher is a helicopter, hovering and correcting every little mistake, the child begins to doubt their abilities. They feel shame. I must be bad at this if the teacher has to keep fixing it. On the other hand, if we throw them into the deep end without a life vest, they fail and feel defeated. The sweet spot is what we call scaffolding. You give them choices, but limited ones. Do you want the red crayon or the blue crayon is a lot safer than what do you want to do, which might result in them painting the walls. When a child spills their juice, an autonomy-supportive teacher doesn't scold or rush to clean it up immediately. They hand the child a paper towel and say, "Oops, let's wipe that up together." This small shift sends a powerful message. You made a mistake, but you have the power to fix it. It builds the virtue of will. Initiative versus guilt, 3 to 5 years. Now we are firmly in the preschool and kindergarten years. The question shifts from "can I do it?" to "is it okay for me to do, move, and act?" This is the age of the million questions. Why is the sky blue? Why does that dog have 3 legs? Teachers here have a massive responsibility to not squash this curiosity. If a child builds a tower of blocks and it crashes down, creating a racket, a teacher who snaps, "Quiet down, you're making a mess," is planting seeds of guilt. The child learns that their initiative is a nuisance. They might withdraw, becoming a wallflower to avoid getting in trouble. Conversely, a teacher who says, "Wow, that was a big crash. What were you trying to build? Let's see if we can make the base wider so it stays up," is validating the child's purpose. Play is the engine of this stage. Authentic play, where kids make up the rules, assign roles, and create scenarios, is the ultimate workshop for initiative. It allows them to try on different hats: firefighter, doctor, parent, without the consequences of the real world. By the time they leave kindergarten, we want them to feel like they have a purpose. The school years, building competence, elementary and middle school. As the school bell rings for first grade, the psychosocial landscape shifts dramatically. The cocoon of the family and the play-based preschool is replaced by the structured, comparative world of formal schooling. Industry versus inferiority, 5 to 12 years. This is the big one for K-12 educators. It spans almost the entire elementary and middle school experience. The crisis here is about competence. Children are learning the tools of their culture: reading, writing, arithmetic, coding, sports. They are obsessed with how things work and how to do things right. But here's the kicker. This is also the age where social comparison kicks into high gear. In preschool, everyone thinks they are the fastest runner in the world. By third grade, they know exactly who the fastest runner is, who the best reader is, and where they fall in the pecking order. If a student consistently struggles and feels like they can't measure up, the dreaded sense of inferiority sets in. They start to believe, "I'm just not smart," or "I'm bad at math." Once that belief takes root, it is incredibly hard to pull out. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Teachers hold the key to breaking this cycle. We have to be careful with how we praise. Saying "you're so smart" is actually a trap. It suggests that intelligence is a fixed trait. You either have it or you don't. When that smart kid hits a hard math problem, they crumble because they think their smartness has run out. Instead, we need to praise the process. "I love how you kept trying different strategies until you solved that." Or, "You really burned the midnight oil on this project and it shows." ... We also need to broaden the definition of success in the classroom. If the only way to shine is by getting an A on a spelling test, you're going to have a lot of kids feeling inferior. We need to create opportunities for the artist, the leader, the helper, and the storyteller to have their moment in the sun. We need to differentiate our instruction so that every child can hit a target. When a child finishes a task and says, "I did it," that feeling of competence is the fuel that will get them through the much stormier waters of adolescence.